Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to the Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast. You know, those of you that know me and those of you that don't know me, those of you that have heard this podcast before and those of you that haven't, I just want to remind us all what spontaneous brilliance is about. It is about what I refer to as the metaphorical metaphysical guide to life, based in, first, my second favorite metaphor, which is the quote attributed to Einstein that everyone is brilliant, but if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life believing that it is stupid. So we have a system in this world that is built on a framework created by well-meaning monkeys that know how to climb the tree. And they think that climbing the tree is the point of life because climbing the tree is fundamental in their world. And so they make systems for all the rest of us that are orangutans and giraffes and pangolins and warthogs, and we're supposed to climb the tree. And us little fishies in the water that can't breathe when we're out of water, we can't climb that tree. But there's nothing wrong with us as fishies. And the other part of the metaphorical metaphysical guide to life is my first favorite metaphor, which is based in Shakespeare's line from As You Like It, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Now I quibble with the merely part, but all the world's a stage. So we are here on the great stage of life. We are the players and we are the characters. So our soulful self is that player that has chosen to come onto this plane and play a character on the great stage of life. And so here we are in our egoic personality. That's the character that we're playing. Now that we've refreshed that, this brings me to the point that I think I want to go on a rant here about today because I've talked to you in previous podcasts, I think like number 19 and maybe number 15 or 14 or somewhere around in there. I talked in both of those about just accepting who we came here to be. And that we came here on purpose to be that. And yet, even those of us that are very much in the camp of honoring the diversity among us and honoring our neurodiversity, we've gotten really wrapped up recently in the term neurodivergent. And neurodivergent, it refers to anybody who is engaging with the world atypically. But who's engaging with the world typically? Like, who is it that we are divergent from? Neurodivergence is an umbrella term that encompasses so many different things. Autism and sensory processing disorders and PTSD and ADHD and dyslexia and dyspraxia and bipolar disorder and fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and bazillions of other things. So it's basically anyone who is seen as their neuroprocesses being divergent from the norm. Who is that norm? Where is that norm? It might be a statistical average of certain circumstances or an expectation, but where is this normal that those of us that are neurodivergent from? We are all neurodivergent. We are all unique creative geniuses. We are all individuals. We are singular. We are not part of a crowd. Show me 3 people with ADHD who all act the same, who all have the same dreams, who all have the same visions, who all have the same likes and dislikes, who all have the same desire, who are all creating the same life. That's not what it is. I have spoken in many of the previous podcasts about if you have a thing, whatever your thing is, that it's part of the beauty of you. It is part of the accepting of the offers that your soulful self made when you came into this life. What you came into this life with, even if it is ADHD or autism or Down syndrome or fetal alcohol syndrome or whatever it is that you came into this life with that makes you, quote, neurodivergent. That's your genius. That's part of what makes you the unique creative genius that you are. That's a gift. that you gave to yourself. Your soulful self gave it to this egoic self. This character that you are, it's a characteristic of the character you are playing here on the great stage of life. And there is no normal that we should be trying to compare ourselves against or someone else against. We need to be focused on discovering what the beauty is in who and what each of us is, rather than measuring the distance from this imagined normal. We are neurodiverse. Now, businesses and stuff, and when I'm consulting, people are always wanting help with embracing the neurodiversity within their company or within their classroom. Great. That is something I can get behind. But neurodivergent is just another label. And lots of people that I have spoken to in recent months think neurodivergent specifically refers to people on the autism spectrum. And that's all they're thinking about. But it's actually supposed to be anybody with a condition that makes their way of neuroprocessing different than what is considered the norm. The neurodivergence, the movement away from what is average, what is in the middle, what is acceptable all the time, that's where genius comes from. Think about it. Show me a non-neurodivergent human who made a humongoid discovery. These are not boring milquetoast humans that change the world, that innovate. These are people that are leaning into their neurodivergence. We all are neurodivergent, folks. In case you haven't caught on, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, some people wear their neurodivergence as a badge of honor. God bless you, whoever you are. But if you can find me the normal, the typical, the who is not divergent from that global center point that we are all being measured against, I'm happy to meet them. Who's this normal person? Normal is just another word in my world for boring. Because if what we're looking for is how close can we get to normal? How close can we get to acceptable? How close can we get to something already established, already welcomed, already recognized? Then we're not being creative. We're not creative. That's why neurodivergent folks have the ability, they have the freedom when they embrace that neurodivergence to create something currently unrecognized in our reality. The inventions that we have, Einstein is about as neurodivergent as a human could be. The guy didn't speak until he was preschool age, and people thought he was broken. He was expelled from school. Okay, we all have seen the pictures. The guy did not conform in terms of hairstyle, right? He was just him. Thank God he embraced his neurodivergence. His neurodivergence was a unique, singular to him form of genius. He had his, you have yours, I have mine. Every single person on the planet has their neurodivergence that they are either masking or celebrating, embracing or rejecting, accepting or blocking, offering or distracting themselves from, okay? But our task here is to accept that everyone on the planet is a unique creative genius. And noticing how you are divergent is not so that you can notice how to make yourself be like somebody else. Because if you're thinking that somebody else is more normal than you, that's just because that's the picture that you have of what normal must be because somebody's patting that person on the back or they seem to be being accepted. But the odd man out is the man that can see it from another perspective. They can see it from this other way of looking at things. Those are the minds that we need to celebrate. That means every mind has the ability to find its own unique way of expressing. And a lot of times we mask that which is our most spectacular trait. And if we get to the end of our lifetime masking that, hiding that, being concerned about it, worrying about it, trying to have it not show up, that's really sad. Because we came here with it for a purpose, because it was going to help us be genius, be a gift to the world. Give the gift of yourself. I know I did a podcast on that. Whoever you are, whatever is making you neurodivergent, not following some idea of normal or acceptable or like everybody else, celebrate it. Now, I have advocated nearly every day of my life for those accommodations and those resources that some people need in order to be able to share their genius. I'm not suggesting that we do not need to supply the resources to allow every student, every worker, every child, every adult to share their unique creative genius. We do. That is our obligation as fellow players on the great stage of life. That is what the system should be doing, is not deciding whether or not someone has a genius, but providing them the tools they need to recognize, embrace, and share their genius. That's what our workplaces can do. Except that if we just accept that everybody's neurodivergent, and we, just like I've asked us to assume brilliance when we walk into the room, assume neurodivergence. Assume that everyone that you know needs their resources, their support, their acceptance, their compassion. And we need to give it to ourselves. We need to stop going, oh, okay, that person's an other, so it's going to cost us more to hire them, or that person's neurodivergent, and so they've got to, I don't know if they'll be able to get along with everybody. Well, will everybody get along with them? If it's our responsibility, if we take the responsibility to accept that neurodivergence is to be celebrated. I am as ADD, you probably noticed that in these podcasts. I am as ADD as the day is long. And I have this thing that I recognized in myself before I knew the term ADD. I would notice that I was wanting to write plays or whatever. Usually it was with writing a play or writing a screenplay. I could not stay focused for several hours on a play. But if I had 2 or 3 plays open at the same time on a computer, and this was probably in the 1980s, so it was a really, I might have one on paper and one on my computer and one was being handwritten or whatever. But when I would allow my brain to jump from one to the other whenever it wanted to, I could write 3 things at once. I could create multiple things simultaneously, or at least in rapid fire succession, because I wasn't telling myself I had to do it this way. I knew playwrights that could sit down and write for 4 hours straight and work on something and stay focused. That was not me. And so I began to realize that, okay, all I have to do is make this little shift and wow, look at how prolific I can be. And having written 35 plays that way, it's okay. It's okay. You just don't worry. Don't make it a thing that you're trying to make be like other people. You're trying to make be not divergent. Just embrace it and go, this is cool because this makes me able to do this. I've talked about my girls a lot, and their unique geniuses. I am not able to do the things that any of them do, but they have neurodivergences, and I'll keep using that word because it assigns a meaning right now, even though I'm kind of railing against it, but I'm going to embrace that word. Okay, just acknowledging that all of us are neurodivergent, but their neurodivergences make them capable of things that are so remarkable. Brittany is ADHD and really has lots of neuroprocessing disorders, but she can see things. When she looks across a field, she will see some tiny little thing and she'll take a picture of it and it will be this glorious, gorgeous photograph. And Shelley can read faster than any human being I have ever known. I mean, she looks at a full page of text and she has read it, and that fast. And it's scary. She used to pass behind me when I was working on something on my computer, and I'd have an email open or something, and she would just be passing by, like not have slowed down at all. And she'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I looked in that direction. I read that email. I'm sorry." It was like, wow, just in an instant. And Andy, if she's in a crisis, like her brain she's very impulsive. But if a crisis happens, it's almost like her head slows down and gets very methodical and everything gets done. She does it quickly, but it's like her brain is experiencing it slowed down enough so that she can pick it all apart. And she handles all kinds of emergency situations very calmly. And it's fascinating. It's like Maria is just like all anxiety ridden about a lot of things. But when she applies that same sort of meticulous attention to detail to numbers, and that girl is who you want doing your bookkeeping. That's who you want as your accountant. I'm just telling you, because that same kind of fastidiousness and OCD-ness, when it goes to numbers, man, it's brilliant. And I'm calling out each of my kids here, but that's extraordinary. It makes them each extraordinary at the things they are extraordinary at. And when we look at each other in that way, knowing that thing that you can identify it as a problem or a divergence or a different from the norm. But I guess my point here on this tirade, folks, is that everybody's different from the norm because there is no normal. That's just an illusion. That's a concept. And so how about we embrace finding out, discovering, recognizing, loving into our neurodivergence? I am not suggesting that everyone needs accommodations. I am not suggesting anything like that. I am saying when the neurodivergence needs supports and resources, let's put our focus into that. Let's know that people with Down syndrome are extraordinary and amazing and brilliant and need the support to express it. That's all. Just the support system so that they can show up in their way. People on the autism spectrum, people with fetal alcohol syndrome need supports. If they need executive function support, great. If they need reading support, great. If they need communication support, great. If someone can't hear, give them a hearing aid. And this could turn into a, sounding like a socialism argument, but yeah, why not? Because if we are in a situation where someone needs a hearing aid, why don't we as a society give them the hearing aid so that they can hear, so that we can benefit from then what they will be able to do with that hearing? If someone is nonverbal, when we figure out how they communicate and we support them in that and we give them the ability to communicate with us, we will always be absolutely blown away by what they have to communicate. I guarantee you. There is a treasure there. Plus, them being nonverbal and somebody being inspired by their love for them to create a mode of communication for them that works for them, that benefits the whole rest of the world. That's how invention happens. When we lean into the neurodiversity and we celebrate the neurodiversity and we support the neurodiversity and we accept neurodivergence as being a beautiful gift that is here on purpose, what is it here for us to learn from it? In us, in someone else, but always first in us. Embrace the ways that you seem to be challenged or seem to be better or worse at something than someone else, right? Competition and comparison, that's not what nature does, right? Remember that. We're here to look at each individual human being as a unique creative genius, find out what that genius is, get curious about it, get supportive of it. We're here to support our fellow players, right? And we are here to find the love. So let's let go of the idea that neurodivergent is how far off the spectrum from normal somebody is. Because I don't know what normal is. This is my tirade. I don't know what normal is. That sounds like a synonym for boring. And we know that fear makes us boring. To reshape the Olympia Dukakis always said fear is boring. And I reframed that to say fear makes us boring because when we're afraid, we make very milquetoast decisions to try to keep ourselves safe. So let's not be afraid in any way of all the neurodivergence that exists out there on this great stage of life in all our fellow players and in our character that we are playing. The neurodivergence is the point, guys. That's what makes us beautiful, remarkable, amazing. That is what makes us worth getting to know. What is it about how we are divergent from this boring, fear-based identity of normal? What is it about us that separates us from that? Because that's what's fabulous about us. That's what's fabulous about you. Whatever you might be masking, whatever you might be wondering how to contain or curtail or whatever, what if it's what you're here for? What if it's your brilliance? What if you just let your head go in that direction, if you just explore it and share it, what is it going to inspire? Even if it seems like a profound limitation, it's there for inspiration just like any obstacle. If what makes you divergent in that way, in your mind or in someone else's, what if you lean into that? What if you celebrate that? What if you just know that that is a beautiful part of who and why you are? And we all know that why is about justification. So let's use that for a second. Let's use that this time. Instead of avoiding the why, let's use it. If you have it here in your life, the why is, it's always here for you. It's always here for what it's going to do for you. This what is your unique creative genius. And so every time that you experience someone or a quality in yourself that you perceive or that others label as neurodivergent, lean into it. See what the gift is in it. Celebrate it. Be curious about it. What is it teaching you? What is it helping you to know? And when we need to provide assets and resources and assistance and support so that those of us on this great stage of life whose neurodivergence is not helping them climb the tree, that's all the problem is, ever, is that the tree is not where they are meant to be. They're not a monkey. That's all it means. So when you notice neurodivergence, all we're doing when we provide the support or the assets or the resources to someone who is identified as neurodivergent, and that neurodivergence seems to create an obstacle or does cause an obstacle, a struggle. All that means is they're a fish or a pangolin or a warthog or a giraffe or a lion or a bear. They're not a monkey. That's all it means. And so The monkey system needs to open up and allow for providing a welcoming attitude toward the monkey learning what the fish can teach it, the monkey learning what the giraffe can teach it, the monkey learning what the bird can teach them. It's the monkey mind. It's this concept that the normal is the monkey. That's just a concept. That's just a story. That's just because the monkeys were there first. If everybody that created the education system was, say, on the autism spectrum, then those people that were, quote, normal or of average IQs or communicated in very boring straight line ways, they would be the fish. Just think of that. The systems were created by well-meaning monkeys, but the well-meaning monkeys, the systems that they created, they give a right and wrong. They hold a right and wrong inherent in them. If you're outside the system, if your way of communicating is different, if your way of moving around is not climbing and swinging and running and jumping, and instead it's swimming or it's flying, then you are perceived as wrong. And that's when neurodivergent is a label that then comes to mean, when it comes to mean wrong, that's when we're wrong. That's when we're behaving like monkeys. That's when we're behaving like the system is the important thing, not the individual. And that's when we are doing a no-no. It's not that they're wrong. It's that the perception is wrong. There is no such thing as a person who is born wrong, right? However they are here, however we are here, however you are here, we're all here as we meant to be. So no matter what the system says, and this is where, the whole neurodivergent labeling festival that's going on right now makes me a little bit crazy, because it's used to designate other. It's used to designate not the norm. And that's where we are leaning into a problem and viewing it as a problem, viewing it as broken. It's not. Nothing that is in you is wrong. You are beautiful, glorious, gorgeous, just as you are, and so is everyone else. So if you've been thinking of someone as a little bit broken, a little bit off, a little bit whatever, and people's neurodiversity, neurodivergence can be a little challenging to deal with. But if they're there in your life, they're there for you, not doing anything to you. It's your responsibility. How can they help you grow? Even if they're really, 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 really difficult to understand or share a close workspace with because of some behavioral challenges, they're yours to learn from. Let's let that label be a badge of honor and a beautiful thing. And let's welcome neurodiversity, because that's where our genius lies, okay? And your neurodivergence is not to be masked, not to be hidden, not to be ashamed of, not to be tried to undo. Celebrate it. What if you are exactly as you meant to be? What if you're perfect? Because you are. And if somebody around you doesn't know that, just keep breathing. They will. Ho'oponopono for them, because they're the ones that might be broken in their thinking at this moment. They're not broken as a person because they have their own genius and brilliance and beauty. But ho'oponopono. Anytime you bounce up against some struggle with your neurodivergence not being accepted, not being celebrated, not being respected by you or by somebody else, it's time to ho'oponopono your ass off, as I would say to my kids, right? And for those of you that have not heard this kind of thing before, the ho'oponopono is the ancient Hawaiian prayer, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. There is a podcast on that if you want to know more about it and you don't know it, but if you do know it and you've been here for a while, go there, okay? Ho'oponopono your ass off, okay? All right, my dears. I love you, and I'm encouraging you to love on you and love on your fellow players. And let's just embrace neurodivergence, because God bless us. That's those folks that are out there on the edge of what's normal, that are playing on that cutting edge. That's where the fun is. All right, so let's celebrate it, and let's welcome it. And let's honor it, and let's respect it in ourselves and in everybody else. And while we're out there doing that, just know that I love you, and I am wishing you a beautiful, glorious, blessing-filled day. The Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast is brought to you by Miracle Communications Group. Our producer is Michelle Oneida. Sound engineer is Corey Michaels at Corey Michaels Productions. Music is composed by Rex Miller. And I'm your host, Sandra Kavanaugh. You can learn more about me and all things Spontaneous Brilliance at sandrakavanaugh.com or spontaneousbrilliance.com. And please join the conversation here at the Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast by emailing us at podcast@spontaneousbrilliance.com.